Let's bring in Michelle Malkin. She's the host of Michelle Malkin Investigates on CRTV. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning, and the answer is pink.
Right.
Yes. Hey, Michelle, I got to ask you about what happened with this. These two Border Patrol agents who were, one was killed, one is struggling for their lives in prison right now. The FBI actually wants us to consider believing that they fell. They fell off an overpass. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Well, we already have Border Patrol union members who are pushing back on that narrative, and not a lot is known yet. It's quite murky, but we do have a reward now being offered, and it's being investigated as a potential assault of this officer. What I want to talk about is much more than the wall. My column is about this, and I was recently in the Southwest area along the border, and we need much more than a wall, of course, and the ranchers have been saying it, and rank and file Border Patrol agents have been saying it for years. We have to talk about the aging infrastructure that is endangering many of these agents, and you'll know from the details that we have heard about this case that Agent Martinez was checking out a ground sensor, and he was trying to determine what set it off. And the fact is that there are some 14,000 of these ground sensors, some of them that have been there since the Vietnam War era, that are corroded, that are not working, and that are dumb. Okay, these are dumb sensors that cannot tell the difference between cows or terrorists and wild boars or dirty bombers coming across the border. And the fact is that the federal government, the Inspector General for the Department of Homeland Security, the General Accounting Office, for a dozen years have been warning that this dumb technology is risking the lives of those who are on the front lines. And this isn't the first time that this has happened, guys. Nicholas Ivey, who was a Border Patrol agent in Arizona, had also been checking out what they thought might have been a false alarm, and it ended up being a friendly fire incident in which he was shot by another agent.
Right. Well, I'm confused because I've heard so many people in Washington from both parties say, look, we've already got surveillance down there. We've got technology that's keeping our southern border safe. But you're telling us that that simply is not the case. We just had a guest on. I'm sure you saw her about 15 minutes ago, Jessica Vaughn from up in Boston. She said that that Border Patrol agent would be alive today, most probably, had there been a wall.
No question. If there had been a wall, and also if there had been more forces. The Border Patrol should actually patrol the border. And we now know, of course, that the patrol is 2,000 short of the 21,000 goal. And as John Ladd, a rancher that I interviewed for my CRTV program, Michelle Malkin Investigates, told me this summer, it doesn't make much sense if you are boosting the numbers of the Border Patrol and they're sitting hours away from the border in air-conditioned cubicles rather than on the border. Also, there is technology out there, and this is something also that I have investigated and reported on. There's a man named Glenn Spencer who's on the border in the Sierra Vista area in Arizona, who has designed a system of smart sensors that actually can tell the difference between human activity, vehicles, and animals, coupled with a drone technology that would send out and dispatch automatically drones so that you could tell what these things are before you send the agents out there.
Michelle, let's move on to a different topic. John Conyers, we've heard about his alleged sexual harassment scandal. He's the congressman from Michigan, and now he's under investigation by the House Ethics Committee. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the House Ethics Committee is infamous for administering wrist slaps rather than actual spankings and consequences for bad behavior. And the fact that you have somebody like Maxine Waters out there endorsing the impeccable integrity of John Conyers shows you everything that's wrong with the swamp. And Maxine Waters herself, of course, got off almost scot-free related to her own ethics scandal involving use of TARP money that she distributed to one of her crony banking projects. So look, what I have to say about this, and I am somebody who was an intern on Capitol Hill some 25, almost 30 years ago now. God, do I feel old. All right. And the fact that you have the swamp being exposed now as a place where largely a lot of these Democratic leaders were not policing themselves shows you that when they blame Republicans for a war on women, what this really was about was psychological psychological projection. In other words, them projecting their own pathologies within these swamps, whether we're talking about Washington or Hollywood or academia, when they themselves are guilty of so much of this behavior and unleashing this culture of misogyny on America.
Do you think Roy Moore should get a pass because Conyers is getting investigation and now Franken has got an apology out there? Should we just say everyone's guilty, so do your own thing?
No, Brian, what I think, and I have, again, this is another topic that I've investigated over the past year for CRTV, is the idea that each and every one of these allegations needs to be vetted. I will say it until I'm blue in the face, that assertions are not truth until there is corroboration, of evidence, and that these assertions have to be established as facts. And my concern is that so many of these allegations are being litigated in the court of public opinion rather than having any kind of empirical evidence and any kind of vetting. Instead, you've got these activists in the liberal media that are going out and procuring victims, so-called victims and accusers, to foist their own political narratives and intervene in these campaigns. I'm very troubled whether we're talking about a Republican or a Democrat, whether we're talking about a liberal actor or a conservative public figure, when you've got these investigations which can turn into witch hunts and bandwagons of women who, for whatever reason, only come out 15, 20, 30 years later. Here is my advice to young women and girls, and I have been saying this for the 25 years that I have worked in public life. If somebody does something wrong to you, if you are uncomfortable, don't wait to tell. There is nothing worth it for you to be quiet. There's no job that is worth risking for you not to stand up and defend your own integrity and safety. Okay. That is my feminist message.
Okay. So you're not saying you don't believe the 9, you're just saying we don't know enough information.
Look, unfortunately for the voters of Alabama, they're going to have to make cost-benefit calculations before they're able to undertake their own independent investigations of what's happened. But with particular regard to the Roy Moore case, what we have to remember about how these women came forward at the very last minute after he's been in public life for how many decades is that investigation came from the partisan Washington Post that went out and dug out these victims. And when you've got Gloria Allred doing the Jump the Shark press conference, you've got to take that into consideration when you are evaluating the credibility of these stories.
All right. Switching gears just for a moment. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and historically when we have you on, we ask you who your turkey of the year is. So who is it?
You know what? I can't just pick one. I thought I would, but it is a three-way tie between Hillary Clinton, the biggest gobbler out there, the mainstream media, and the NFL. No fans left.
The trifecta. All right.
Thanks, Michelle. Have a great Thanksgiving.
You bet.